The quarantine breaks Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Luna Station, watching Earth rotate slowly in the distance. 50 years had passed since the Collective Council had locked humanity inside their own solar system, declaring them too dangerous to join the galactic community. The energy barrier that surrounded their system hummed invisibly beyond Pluto, a reminder of their cosmic prison. Sarah had been born into this quarantine. She had never seen another star up close or met an alien being. Like most humans of her generation, she had grown up with stories of the brief first contact that had led to their isolation. The Collective Council claimed it was for everyone's safety, including humanity's own. The communication panel beside her crackled to life. "Captain Chen, please report to Lab 7 immediately," came the voice of Dr. Marcus Webb, the station's chief scientist. His tone carried an urgency that made Sarah move quickly through the corridors. Lab 7 was restricted access, hidden deep within Luna Station's core. Sarah had security clearance, but she rarely visited. When the doors opened, she found Dr. Webb hunched over a complex array of equipment, his gray hair disheveled from hours of work. "Marcus, what's so urgent that you pulled me away from patrol duty?" Sarah asked, settling into a chair beside him. Dr. Webb looked up, his eyes bright with excitement and concern. "Sarah, I've been monitoring subspace frequencies for months, trying to understand more about the galaxy beyond our barrier. What I found changes everything." He activated a holographic display that showed wave patterns and data streams. "These are distress signals, Sarah, not just one or two, but thousands of them. They're coming from all over the galaxy." Sarah leaned forward, studying the patterns. "Distress signals? From who?" "That's what I've been trying to figure out. I managed to decode several of them. They're from species we've never heard of, worlds the Collective Council never mentioned. And Sarah, they're not calling for help with natural disasters or accidents. They're calling for help against the Collective Council itself." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. "You're saying the Council is oppressing other species?" "More than oppressing. From what I can decode, they're enslaving entire civilizations. The Council we thought was protecting the galaxy is actually controlling it through fear and force." Dr. Webb switched to another display showing translated text fragments. "Look at these messages. The crystal farms demand more workers." Another. "Shipment of children taken for the academies. Resistance cells eliminated in Sector 7. Sarah, we're not the only ones in prison. We're just the only ones they were afraid to enslave." Sarah stood up, pacing the small lab. "Why are you showing me this, Marcus? We can't exactly do anything about it from inside our barrier." "Actually, that's where you're wrong." Dr. Webb's voice took on the tone of a man about to reveal his life's work. "For the past 5 years, I've been developing something in secret. I call it the Neural Communication Network." He led her to another section of the lab where a different device hummed quietly. "The Council monitors all our conventional communications, every radio wave, every quantum transmission, everything. But they can't monitor what doesn't exist in normal space." "I don't understand." "This device creates a direct neural link between human minds. The communication happens at a quantum level inside our consciousness. It's completely undetectable because it doesn't use any form of energy that exists outside the human brain." Sarah stared at the device. "You've been reading people's minds?" "Not reading. Connecting. It's completely voluntary and temporary. But Sarah, with this technology, we could coordinate resistance efforts across the entire galaxy without the Council ever knowing. Assuming we could get out of our system." Dr. Webb smiled. "That's the other thing I've been working on. I've been analyzing the barrier that contains us. It's designed to stop ships and energy weapons. But it has one weakness. It doesn't stop small objects moving at very specific frequencies." "How small?" "About the size of a communication probe carrying our neural network technology." Sarah felt her heart rate increase. "Marcus, what exactly are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we do what humanity has always done when faced with tyranny. We fight back, but not just for ourselves, for every enslaved civilization in the galaxy." Over the following weeks, Sarah found herself drawn deeper into Dr. Webb's underground network. She discovered that hundreds of humans across the solar system had been secretly working on the project. Engineers on Mars had been developing untraceable spacecraft. Scientists on Europa had been studying Council technology from intercepted signals. Even children in Earth schools had been unknowingly contributing by developing new mathematical models. The scope of the secret operation amazed her. While the rest of humanity went about their daily lives believing they were trapped forever, a dedicated group had been preparing for the day they would break free. Ambassador Elena Torres was one of the key figures in this shadow organization. She had been present during the original first contact 50 years ago, and had never stopped believing that humanity deserved their place among the stars. The Council didn't quarantine us because we were dangerous to others, Elena explained, during one of their secret meetings. They quarantined us because we were dangerous to them. Every species they encountered before us had either submitted immediately or been crushed. We did neither. We negotiated. We asked questions. We demanded equality. And that scared them? Terrified them. Because if other species saw that it was possible to stand up to the Council, their entire system of control would collapse. Sarah began to understand the bigger picture. Humanity wasn't just trapped in the Sol system. They were the symbol of what the Council feared most, a species that refused to be controlled. The neural network technology proved to be even more revolutionary than Dr. Webb had initially realized. When tested among volunteer groups, it didn't just allow communication. It allowed humans to share experiences, knowledge, and emotions directly. An engineer on Mars could instantly share technical knowledge with a pilot on Earth. A strategist on Luna could coordinate with soldiers on Titan in real time. It's like we're becoming one mind with many bodies, Dr. Webb explained, but each person maintains their individuality. It's cooperation without loss of self. The first real test came when they managed to launch a probe beyond the barrier. It was disguised as space debris and moved at precisely the right frequency to slip through undetected. On board was a neural communication device and a message in multiple languages. The message was simple. If you are enslaved by the collective, Council, you are not alone. Humanity stands ready to help. Respond if you can hear this. The response came within hours. Not one reply, but dozens. Species they had never heard of began reaching out through the neural network. The Zephyrians, who had been forced to mine rare crystals for Council weapons, the Thornax, whose children were taken to serve in Council academies, the symbiotes who had been separated from their bonded partners and forced into labor camps. Each new connection brought more stories of oppression and more proof that the collective Council was not the benevolent government they claimed to be. They were conquerors who ruled through fear and maintained power by preventing their subjects from communicating with each other. They've been using the same strategy for centuries, Elena realized. Isolate each species, make them think they're alone, and they won't resist. But now we're connecting them all. The neural network began to spread like wildfire through the galaxy's oppressed populations. Species that had never been able to communicate before were suddenly sharing thoughts and plans. The Council's greatest weapon, isolation, was being dismantled by human technology they couldn't detect. But with each new connection came the weight of responsibility. Sarah found herself in communication with resistance leaders across the galaxy, all looking to humanity for guidance and support. They want to know when we're coming, she reported to the Leadership Council. Every species we contact asks the same question. When will humans break their quarantine and help us fight? The room fell silent. They all knew that breaking the quarantine meant war with the most powerful force in the galaxy. It meant leaving behind the safety of their solar system for an uncertain future. Dr. Webb spoke first. We have advantages they don't know about. The neural network gives us coordination. They can't intercept. Our ship designs are based on different principles than theirs, and most importantly, we have something they lost long ago. What's that? Sarah asked. The willingness to fight for others, not just ourselves. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would break their quarantine and join the Galactic rebellion against the collective Council. They would use their technology not to conquer, but to liberate. As Sarah watched the final preparations begin, ships being readied in hidden facilities throughout the solar system, she knew they were about to change the course of galactic history. The Collective Council had made one critical error. They had given humanity 50 years to prepare, thinking that isolation would make them weak. Instead, it had made them united. The Silent War begins. The first human ships to leave the Sol system in 50 years did so in complete silence. Captain Sarah Chen commanded the lead vessel, a sleek craft that bore little resemblance to the bulky Council ships they had studied through intercepted transmissions. Where Council ships relied on massive engines and heavy armor, human ships were built on principles of stealth and efficiency. "Barrier breach successful," reported Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison from the navigation station. "We're officially outside the quarantine zone." Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and fear as she watched the barrier fade behind them. For the first time in her life, she was truly free to travel among the stars. But freedom came with a price. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Collective Council was beginning to notice unusual activity in their surveillance networks. The neural communication network hummed with activity as liberation teams across human space coordinated their movements. Unlike radio communications that could be intercepted, the neural links allowed instant, undetectable coordination across vast distances. Through the network, Sarah could feel the thoughts and emotions of her fellow humans. Commander Liu approaching the Zephyrian mining colonies, Captain Rodriguez moving toward the Thornax labor camps, Ambassador Torres heading to make contact with the symbiote resistance. Each team had a specific mission, but they all shared the same goal: to break the chains of Council oppression. "First target acquired," came Liu's thoughts through the neural link. "Zephyrian crystal mines, Sector 12. I can see the forced labor camps from here. It's worse than we imagined." Sarah closed her eyes and let herself share Liu's visual feed. Through the neural network, she could see crystalline beings working under harsh lights, their natural luminescence dimmed by exhaustion and despair. Council overseers, heavily armed and armored, patrolled the mining platforms. "Remember the protocol," Sarah transmitted to all teams. "We're not here to start a war. We're here to end one. Liberation first, confrontation only when necessary." The human approach to the conflict was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Rather than attacking Council forces directly, they focused on freeing the enslaved populations. Their ships would appear suddenly near prison worlds, deploy specialized rescue equipment, and evacuate as many prisoners as possible before Council reinforcements could arrive. The key to their success was the neural network. Every freed alien who could handle the connection was brought into the communication web. Suddenly, species that had been isolated for generations were talking to each other, sharing information about Council weaknesses and coordinating their own resistance efforts. Dr. Webb, monitoring the network from Luna Station, watched in amazement as the connections multiplied exponentially. "Sarah, we've connected over 200 different species in the past week. The network is becoming self-sustaining." Through the neural link, Sarah could feel the emotions of newly freed beings: relief, hope, and something else: anger. Generations of oppression had created a reservoir of rage that was now finding focus and direction. The Council's response came exactly 1 week after the first liberation. Admiral Kex, the Council's supreme military commander, issued a galaxy-wide broadcast from the capital world of Nexus Prime. "A terrorist organization has been disrupting the peaceful order of our galaxy," Kex announced, his insectoid features twisted with fury. "These criminals, led by the quarantined humans, are spreading chaos and disorder. All loyal species are commanded to report any contact with these terrorists immediately." But the broadcast had an unintended effect. Species that hadn't known about the rebellion suddenly learned that resistance was possible. The neural network picked up hundreds of new connection requests within hours of the announcement. "They've made a critical error," Elena Torres observed from her ship near symbiote space. "They've acknowledged us as a threat. That gives legitimacy to everyone who joins our cause." The war entered a new phase as Council forces began actively hunting human ships. But the humans had spent 50 years studying council tactics through intercepted communications. They knew how the enemy thought, how they moved, how they fought. More importantly, they had learned to fight differently. Traditional galactic warfare involved massive fleets engaging in direct combat. Council ships were designed for this kind of fighting, heavily armed, well-shielded, and built to overpower opponents through sheer force. Human ships avoided direct confrontation entirely. They struck quickly at undefended targets, rescued prisoners, and vanished before enemy reinforcements could arrive. When forced to fight, they used swarm tactics, coordinating dozens of small ships through the neural network to outmaneuver larger council vessels. The psychological impact was as important as the military success. For centuries, the council had maintained control through the belief that resistance was impossible. Every successful human operation shattered that belief a little more. Captain Rodriguez reported from the Thornax system. We've successfully evacuated 3 labor camps. The Thornax are natural engineers, and they're already improving our ship designs. They've figured out how to boost our stealth systems by 30%. This became another advantage humanity hadn't anticipated. Each species they liberated brought unique skills to the rebellion. The crystalline Zephyrians understood energy manipulation. The plant-like Verdans were masters of biological technology. The silicon-based architects could build structures that were virtually indestructible. The neural network allowed instant sharing of these technologies. A breakthrough by Zephyrian engineers on one side of the galaxy could be implemented by human technicians on the other side within minutes. Admiral Kex grew increasingly desperate as council control began to crumble. Entire systems declared independence, protected by growing fleets of mixed-species ships. The Council's strategy of keeping different species isolated was backfiring catastrophically. "Deploy the Executioner fleet," Kex ordered his subordinates. "We will make an example that will end this rebellion permanently." The Executioner fleet was the Council's ultimate weapon. 50 massive dreadnoughts armed with planet-killing weapons. They had never been defeated in combat, never even been seriously challenged. Sarah received the intelligence through the neural network as council ships massed near the Thornax homeworld. "They're planning to destroy an entire planet to make a point," she transmitted to all human commanders. "We can't let that happen." "Sarah, we don't have enough firepower to stop 50 dreadnoughts," came the worried thoughts of Commander Liu. "We don't need to stop them," Sarah replied. "We need to make them stop themselves." The plan that emerged through the neural network was audacious even by human standards. Rather than fighting the Executioner fleet directly, they would use the Council's own psychology against them. Every human ship in the galaxy converged on the Thornax system, but they didn't come alone. Through the neural network, they had coordinated with resistance cells throughout Council space. At the exact moment the Executioner fleet prepared to fire on the Thornax homeworld, revolution erupted on 100 different worlds. Council supply depots exploded. Communication networks went offline. Prison camps were emptied. Government buildings were seized by local populations. The network of oppression that had held the galaxy together for centuries collapsed in a matter of hours. Admiral Kex found himself receiving reports of chaos from every corner of Council space. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "How are they coordinating on this scale?" His intelligence officers had no answer. They had monitored every form of communication known to galactic science. They had never detected any coordination between the rebels. Faced with the choice between destroying one planet and losing control of the entire galaxy, Kex made the only decision he could. The Executioner fleet withdrew from Thornax space to deal with the multiple emergencies. But it was too late. The moment of hesitation had broken the Council's aura of invincibility. Species that had lived in fear for generations realized that their oppressors could be defied. The neural network carried messages of triumph from across the galaxy, not just from humans but from dozens of species celebrating their newfound freedom. "This is just the beginning," Sarah transmitted to the network. "We've shown that the Council can be beaten. Now we need to make sure they can never enslave anyone again." The foundation of the Free Galactic Alliance was announced simultaneously on 1,000 worlds. Unlike the Council's hierarchy of oppression, The alliance was built on principles of cooperation and mutual respect. Each species maintained its independence while working together for common defense. The neural network became the alliance's greatest asset, allowing instant communication and coordination across the galaxy. But more than that, it allowed different species to truly understand each other in ways that had never been possible before. Dr. Webb, now recognized as one of the architects of galactic liberation, reflected on the change from his laboratory on Luna. "We didn't just break our quarantine," he said to Sarah during one of their neural conversations. "We broke the barriers between all species. For the first time in galactic history, we're not just coexisting, we're truly cooperating." The collective council still existed, but their power was broken. They controlled only a handful of systems, and their threats carried no weight. The galaxy had learned that freedom was possible, and that lesson could never be unlearned. Captain Sarah Chen stood once again at an observation deck, but this one orbited a liberated world in what had once been council space. Through the transparent walls, she could see ships from a dozen different species working together to build a new kind of civilization. The neural network hummed with the thoughts and dreams of billions of beings, all connected by technology that had started as humanity's desperate attempt to break free from their prison. Now it was the foundation of a galaxy where no species would ever be enslaved again. Humanity had indeed proven to be dangerous to the collective council, but not in the way the council had feared. They were dangerous because they had shown the galaxy what freedom looked like, and once seen, it could not be forgotten.